Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 96, only four away from episode 100 of the Still City Insider podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremy Ritz, alongside Mr. Jim Wexel, and we are very excited today because we have Roy Countryman with us, our resident Steelers draft expert. So we're going to talk all things Steelers draft, but quickly, Roy, how are you? Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on, Jim. It's good to see you. I'm glad we're into the Super Bowl week coming here, and then we're jumping in the off season.
Yes, we are, and I'm about ready to get down there to the combine and begin my draft coverage. Roy, you're handling it for now, so we're going to talk draft with you today.
All right, sounds good, Jim. You know I can always talk ball.
I know.
Awesome. So it's going to be a fun episode, and we will talk about the Taylor Bowl. Super Bowl at the end of the show. But let's start by talking about the Steelers.
Jeremy, are you a hater?
I'm not a hater. I like Taylor Swift.
Okay. Go ahead.
Never mind.
Oh, geez.
Correct myself there. Anyway, so let's start here. We're talking about the Steelers coaching staff. They make a change at the wide receiver coaching position with Frisman Jackson being relieved of his duties, and a former Steelers great wide receiver being rumored as a potential replacement there. Let's talk about that coaching change.
I'd love to see Hines Ward get it. Only because I know Hines. I can talk to Hines. I like Hines. They want to instill toughness in those receivers, but I don't know what else is out there. If I could have Antoine Randall, I'd take him, but he's not going to make a lateral move from a world-class contending team like the Lions. So I don't know if there are any young guys that are proving themselves as wide receivers coach. Maybe Roy, you know any?
Yeah, if I was going to swing for one, a young up-and-comer, I'd go back to the college ranks. I'd look at a guy that just coached Pitt not long ago, Brennan Marion, the receiver coach while he was there with Kenny Pickett. He's a great offensive mind. He's the OC at UNLV right now. I think he'd be a guy that maybe some up-and-coming ideas to fit under a guy like Arthur Smith that has experience play calling. He can cut his teeth. But I really like the fit of Hines Ward, though, with the experience and being able to hold accountability to some of these guys here.
When the Steelers, these former players come to the Steelers often and ask if they can get into coaching for them. And they say, go coach. I don't care where, somewhere. Joey Porter, go coach, volunteer to coach outside linebackers at Colorado State for a year. And when Hines didn't I forget which time he didn't get it. He had come to camp and mentored Juju's rookie year and really instilled some toughness into Juju, took him on as his project. And we saw how Juju developed. And then Hines didn't get the next job, and he ended up at like Florida Atlantic. Was it Florida Atlantic?
Yeah, he was
I thought that was more of the case of the Steelers telling him, go coach, just go coach somewhere first. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up at the XFL. I heard he had the worst team in the XFL, but that doesn't bother me. I mean, anybody could get saddled with a really bad team in a really bad league, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, he could still coach wide receivers for me. So that's where I think they are with Hines Ward. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's fallen out of favor with the organization. I think they just told him to go coach somewhere, and he did.
And as far as the XFL, Jim, I watched a lot of that league. The team just simply didn't have a quarterback. They're well-coached, well-prepared team. So going from a head coaching position now to a positional coach, it's definitely with his resume he has. I think he could definitely have a chance.
So you're saying he'll fit in here without a quarterback?
Quite possibly.
I'm teasing.
So here's a question for you both. Does Hines Ward have a greater chance of becoming the Steelers wide receivers coach or becoming a member of the Hall of Fame?
I'd put them both about even. Because I don't think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame, and it's a difficult call to say one particular assistant coach is going to be given the position coach. But, I mean, he's good enough to, and he's logical. So that gives him an outside chance. I think, he's got a B to B+ chance in each of them. And neither of them are A's, but got a chance.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as Jim there, Jeremy. I think he's going to have to wait still for the Hall, but I think he might have a better chance of getting this positional coach job. I mean, we're not talking about a passing game coordinator position or an OC. It's a wide receiver coaching position. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. So definitely something we'll be watching for the outcome there, what's going to happen to fill that position. But Jim, any other assistants that we should keep an eye on in terms of them being shipped out? Somebody new coming in?
I really don't. I mean, they're going to have to name a quarterbacks coach. My understanding is that Sully's not coming back. So they would need a quarterbacks coach, and you would think maybe that would be an expensive quarterbacks coach who can also be your quote unquote pass game coordinator.
Mhm.
Hey, maybe that's what they'll do with the wide receiver position, and then get a young kid to coach quarterbacks. I don't know, but I think those are the only positions. They like their D line coach. They like their inside linebacker coach. Really, he did a good job last year. Yeah, outside linebacker coach. I don't know if he's doing a good job, but those guys can really play. So the outside linebackers are fine. I like Grady Brown in the secondary. So all you're doing is looking at a couple maybe assistants, and the assistant strength coach needs replaced too. Just minor roles like that. But the only position I see is the pass game coordinator / quarterbacks coach.
Is Eddie Faulkner coming back, Jim? Do you
I
know?
assume he is. I
Okay.
mean, he was well liked, and they liked what he was doing enough to give him that half promotion last year and give him a lot of responsibility.
I was hoping so. I thought he did well being in that, timeshare with Sully there, calling the plays and coming up with the program going forward there at the end of the season. So,
And running backs did well.
yeah.
I mean, you can't give them natural speed, but they did. They could play 3 downs, both of them. Yeah.
And as far as quarterbacks, coaches, a guy I'd throw out there is Charles London. He's worked with Arthur Smith. He was, I believe, a part of his staff there in the Falcons. He has some experience with working with QBs throughout his time here in the NFL.
Good stuff, Roy.
Yeah, well, we'll be keeping an eye on all of that. But the real reason that you're here today, it is February. It's the month of the NFL Combine, and we're going to start talking about prospects. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, Roy put together a great piece on Senior Bowl standouts that just concluded here toward the end of last week. But Roy, do you want to talk about who stood out at the Senior Bowl? I know that Tomlin was there, as long as some other members of the Steelers coaching staff. But let's jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a few blue chippers that really shined. One of the guys that's been talked about a lot is this year's version of the JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, the pivot man from Oregon. This guy just looked like he was on a different level compared to some of the other offensive linemen. Being able to set his anchor, quick feet, get out in space, the agility, hand usage. He looks like the total package here. He did have to leave early because of a hamstring injury. He didn't get to play in the game. But this guy's a plug and play starter day one. He is right in line with what the Steelers look for in an underclassman, younger guy that they can help develop. And, you look throughout the last successful iterations of our offensive lines, we've always had that staunch center that you can depend upon. And he was a guy that really flashed. And I wish his counterpart, Zack Frasier, who is going toe-to-toe for the first center here, could have had a chance, but due to his broken leg, he wasn't out there outside of some snaps before practice with some of the quarterbacks. So that was one of the guys that really flashed for me there, that really put on some big tape, and his stock is really surging after the Senior Bowl. A couple other guys, Tyler Guyton. Mike Tomlin was very keen on a lot of his reps early in the week before he started congregating to the defensive side. This guy has length for days. He's a former tight end for TCU that transferred to Oklahoma and bulked up and started at right tackle. Would be an excellent foundational piece there as well. If you want to go for that positional value route in the first round of a Guyton over maybe a center, and the Jackson Powers Johnson there at pick 20, he's another guy that he didn't lose a lot of reps to guys outside of maybe some hand usage refinement. He's a pretty well plug and play right tackle that can start year one as well.
Okay, let's unpack those 3 guys. The center, JPJ. We already have a JPJ. I know him as Joey Porter Jr. So this new guy, I don't know the hyphens and which name's the first name, which name's the last. I'm going with JPJ with this guy. Now, you say he can plug and play. Is Mason Cole need replaced in the first day the way Justin Hartwig did when Marquise Pouncey came along? Oh, I mean, I'll let you marinate with that one. It's kind of rhetorical because I remember that first week, Pouncey was going to become the first center since like 1956 to start the opener for the Steelers as a rookie. And I had done stories. Why is it so hard? And center's got to think a lot. Center's got to know everything. And I approached Marquise. If either of you guys have ever interviewed Marquise, but he's really gregarious, really fun, easy to talk to, but not that week. Hey, Marquise, you got a minute? Oh man, no, I don't. I got 1,000 things on my mind. And his face said, I got to get into the playbook. I don't know what I'm doing. I got to start this opener. So, I mean, Justin Hartwig was released and Pouncey played. He played so well in the preseason, but man, he was a nervous wreck going up to that. And he's one of the smart guys. So
Yeah.
I don't know if any rookie is going to be ready to play center. And you say plug and play on day one. And they have a backup guard. I don't see them changing their guards. We're playing well at the end of the year. So I just see, and I could see them picking him at 20.
I could too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're one of the few franchises that value that position more than others. A lot of times you look at other franchises, they don't value centers in the first round, just the same way as some other teams don't pick running backs in the first round. We took a running back in the first round not long ago.
Well, in theory, you can get them cheaper in free agency.
Right.
And you can draft your offensive tackles and cornerbacks and quarterbacks in the first round because you can't afford them in free agency.
Absolutely. And that fits along the lines here, being he's one of the underclassmen, the way Steelers historically have leaned that way. So in the second contract, if they pan out, they're able to keep these guys for longer periods. The only caveat I'd throw at you, Jim, there is I'm not sure is Mason Cole going to survive the offseason with the cap hit of they can save almost $5 million if they release in this offseason. So that's the thing. We're really up in the air yet. We're not sure. I mean, if Cole's still on the roster, then yeah, we'd pull the Broderick Jones experience and you ease him in and you don't overwhelm him because you're looking at big picture. But if not, you might not have Cole on the roster depending on your other decisions you're going to make for free agency.
They didn't have to cut Hartwig because of money early. I mean, they cut him in camp.
Yeah.
Maybe money played a little factor in there, but $5 million that could send him packing. And the tackle.
Titan.
Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to ask you about Frasier, the WVU center. Now it's a broken leg, and he's down there snapping and showing up and talking, and very gregarious guy and doing all the right things. And he's a 4-time heavyweight wrestling champ. Is that in the state of West Virginia or Pennsylvania?
West Virginia.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
That's still great.
Yep.
But it ain't wrestling in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
If you know what I'm saying. That's like going to Iowa. If you're a 4-time champ out of the state of Iowa.
Yeah, you're a big dog then. You can
I don't know enough about West Virginia wrestling, so don't at me on this, but I just do know Pennsylvania is elite.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where he grew up.
Well, and Zack Frasier, the thing with him is all I got to tell you is the clip of him breaking, I believe it was his fibula that they broke in his final series of his final regular season game at West Virginia. I love centers that are gritty, and he crawled off the field so that they wouldn't take a 10-second runoff on their last drive to try to come back. So he's trying to literally crawl out the field with a broken leg just to help his teammates out. And now he's showing up. I believe it's 9 weeks out post setting the bone. I don't believe he had surgery on it. He's working out with, I believe, the offensive masterminds. He's out there already training. He's been running on a treadmill. That's why he's saying like he's cleared to do some of the stuff probably at the combine. He might not do all of it. He's going to be able to be acclimated quick here. This isn't a long-term injury that we have to worry about with the fibula. It's just that we might be able to get him at a discount per se because of missing out on these opportunities to see his stock boost, not being able to perform at the Senior Bowl against a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson. You might be able to get him in the second round, but that dude he's a hardcore guy. He's a warrior mentality there at the pivot.
I get the part about getting him cheap, but how cheap? Can you get him in the second round?
Yeah, you'd have to.
Teams don't value the position. I mean, that's why an interior offensive line in totality. Look at how Dave DeCastro dropped. Yep. And he was considered the god of the inside game that year, and he went to, I believe, 24th. So I can see either JPJ falling, but will Frasier fall to the second round? I mean, you paint a great picture of him, and it's not an ACL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
it would have to be that pick at 51 or a slight move up in the second round, depending upon how things shake out in the first round. If JPJ gets selected in that 20 to 25 range, you might have to move up to that early portion of day two to make sure you secure your center that you want. Now, there is still guys like Graham Barton, who's a tackle at Duke. That's also, he played his first year as a center. He's a high quality player, but you're also projecting it back inside now after starting 3 years out at left tackle.
Max Starks told me about him. Max loves him.
Yeah,
And I figure he's from Duke. He's got to be smart, right? Smart enough to handle the center position.
absolutely. And like I said, he did it as a freshman. He started as a freshman as the center at Duke. And then you have a guy like Cedric Von Prawn, who was the teammate of Broderick Jones down in Georgia. So you have some depth here.
Cedric Von Prawn. How do you spell that now?
Well, it's actually even
Prawn.
longer. It's actually even longer than that. It's Von Prawn Granger. It just keeps adding. It's like Fuamatu Maafala. I can't keep up with it, so I always just call him Von Prawn. But he's kind of behind those three guys just because he doesn't have the length of those other three guys ahead of him. But he was down there mauling people in the SEC for 3 years as a starter. So
Okay,
you have
let's hit the tackle. Jeremy, you probably got questions. I'm sorry, I'm hogging this.
Jim, I just wanted to say, I hope they draft that guy because I would just, be interested in what your nickname for him would be. So I'm going to make note of him.
Which guy? Von Prawn.
Von Prawn Granger.
Is he like a count? Is that three names? Von?
He's got to
Yeah.
be getting close here now. I don't know. We'll have to
Yeah.
ask Broderick about him if he ever becomes a Steeler. What went on there?
Well, the problem I have at tackle is I think they're going to start Moore and Broderick, and Moore can't play the right side. So I think people should settle down on moving Broderick right away. Marvell Smith stayed at right tackle for 3 years before he made the move back to his natural left tackle position and became a Super Bowl caliber Super Bowl player, championship player. So if they do cut Chooks, as we all expect because of his salary cap number, they're going to need a number 3. And I think they're going to want to have that open number 3 to force them into drafting a tackle. They're going to have to, but they can also get one in the second round. Isn't this a deep tackle crop? Because second round allows you now to leave him as the number 3 most of the year until needed. Maybe a guy like Dylan Cook passes him up to be the number 3. Hey, great. That means Dylan Cook's coming along. But I think I really can't see him drafting a first round tackle again. Because look at all the heat that was on Broderick and the coaching staff to play him last year. I don't think they really want that with the tackles they have. I know everybody wants it, but I don't see them moving that early either. They're not going to want to move Broderick over to left tackle and put the kid at right tackle when Dan Moore, after he plays 4 games and they make the move. They're not going to want to upset the apple cart like that. So is it a good, strong tackle crop? Can you get one in the second, third round?
Oh, absolutely, Jim. This is one of the strongest tackle classes I've ever seen since I started scouting. There's going to be guys probably in round 3 and maybe even round 4 that could come in and start for a team. There's guys that you won't want starting day 1. And that's even the guy that I just discussed here, Tyler Guyton. I wouldn't want him starting day 1, like I was talking about with Powers Johnson, but the upside is there to be an all-pro with his athleticism in the background, and just he needs more refinement technique-wise. And when you get him in that situation where you can nurture him and sit him behind, let Broderick at right and Dan Moore at left for the first, season or maybe even half season, depending on how things shake out, I think the ceiling would definitely be able to be reached there with the NFL coaching. But you have guys that have 50, 60 starts here. There's a guy from Texas and Christian Jones that played both left and right tackle, and he put on a show down in Mobile as well, shut down a lot of the pass rushers at right tackle there, even got, I think, a couple snaps at right guard in the one-on-ones. He looked dominant, big, long guy, big and strong. You could probably get him in the late second, maybe third round, just because of the depth that we have here. This class is full of receivers and tackles, and you're going to see these guys dropping just because there's such a dearth of people there that you can really weigh what what position do you want to take in the first round? That's why if you want to value the Jackson Powers and Johnston in the first round and then grab your tackle in the second, that'd be good. If you want to grab your tackle with a higher ceiling and then grab your pivot man the second.
Okay, Jeremy, there's another just gaping hole. You want to ask Roy about that position?
Yes, it's my favorite position. Well,
I don't know what your favorite position
might be
is,
off. I always bring it up.
Where's the gaping hole?
I think the gaping hole is in the interior linebacker position, inside linebacker. But for as deep as the rest of this draft class is, from what I've done in just my preliminary research, this isn't a strong class for inside backers. Jim, maybe you had another position in mind, but I think back to Ryan Shazier, James Farrier, where those defenses were stout and elite. We don't have that. And not to say that, wow, I can't remember his name, who we brought in this year. Cole Holcomb.
Landon Roberts was very good.
Roberts.
Very good. I think that was a find.
Yes, but what's out there, Roy, at inside back, or is it just not there this year?
Inside linebackers are really, it's kind of an up in the air position. I don't really have a guy first round caliber. There's one guy I really like. His name's Peyton Wilson from NC State. When I see him now, mind you, this is going to be a bad comparison, but just as far as work ethic and ferocity on the field, he has that Nate Herbig, TJ Watt-esque, like just frenetic energy, but he's had 4 different injuries. He's had 2 shoulder injuries, 2 ACLs, but when he's on the field, he is an absolute monster. You might be able to get him in the second, third round, depending on medicals, maybe even later, depending on the teams, if they disqualify him for the medicals. You have a guy like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. His dad was a longtime linebacker for the Eagles, quality player out of Clemson. And those are probably my 2 guys at the top of the class. And you're talking about guys maybe in the second, third round. So you're looking more at that value pick, maybe get a guy later that has some measurables you like and maybe a couple intangibles and let him work behind those guys you just talked about. I thought the Landon Roberts and Holcomb signing were home runs. It's just the injury bug killed them.
Yeah, but I don't know that you can count on Holcomb coming back. It was a pretty
Right.
serious injury. And they probably will, because he's due a lot of money and they liked him. So they're not going to give up easily on him. And I don't know that they're going to be drafting too early either. That's another position that they're probably throwing their hands up in the air at their bad luck in the draft. And you can get those guys in free agency.
And I'll give you
the more important position, in my opinion. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
The only thing I wanted to say, Jim, is keep an eye on free agency for that. I think a guy like Isaiah Simmons is the former first round pick. He got traded to the Giants, had a pretty good season, but he didn't start because they had 2 guys already there. That might be an under the radar guy they could bring in to be able to buoy the situation until Holcomb's able to come back.
Well, their secondary really is a mess, but it's got the potential. With Minka and JPJ there, they need a guy on the other side. And if you still have Patrick Peterson around, perfect time to get another kid in to learn under Peterson. He's a font of information and wisdom and patience, and he's a real teacher. He's a really good dude, and I would like to see them get a corner. Are there any first round corners at pick 20?
Yeah, pick 20. There's a couple guys that will rise above where we can get in, so I'm not going to mention them. But Quinyon Mitchell, the guy from Toledo, we've had good experiences. The Steelers have it, being able to pluck guys from there and be quality producers like Deontay. Quinyon Mitchell came in. He was among the college football pass defense leaders in the last 3 years. Great at the catch point, has good height, good length. He really stuck on the receiver's hip pocket the entire practice periods here. Really was disruptive and really felt like he took that step forward in saying the competition doesn't matter. That was the biggest question in Scout's eyes coming into Mobile, was he played at a smaller conference. Is he able to match up with these guys in the SEC and the Big Ten? It did look no different than what the other teams that he was playing. So that guy really answered the bell for me. He's going to be moving up in my big board here, the next update I have. I really think he's a top 20, 25 player. With that production he had at Toledo, I think he could be a high-quality ad in the first round at pick 20 there.
Let me give you a little hint here about from Mike Tomlin. Don't tell anybody, okay? It's just between us.
Yeah, I won't say nothing.
Last year at a media dinner, we shoot the shit with Coach Tomlin. He sits down with us, and we got around to talking to the Iowa Pro Day. I asked him what Jack Campbell was really like. He was raving about Campbell. He said he was the alpha of that group. Nobody at that table spoke unless Jack gave him the go ahead. I don't know how that happened, but that was Jack Campbell. And then Tomlin started raving about Cooper DeJean. DeJean or DeJean?
DeJean.
DeJean.
Yeah, like
Cooper
mustard.
DeJean. I mean, he was raving about him. And, he can rave about him then back in July, right?
Yeah.
But some of us remember. And I don't know about you, Jeremy, but would you like to see two real first-round dogs playing cornerback?
Oh yeah.
I know you can't figure out who's going to follow the top receiver that you're facing that day, but I think that's a good problem.
Be a great problem. Be a great problem.
And he already know what he looks like in black and gold, being he's in Iowa there.
Exactly. That was my point with George Kittles years ago. George Kittles didn't want to play that game with me at the combine. Remember what's Kittle or Kittles? Now I'm losing it.
Kittle.
It's Kittle.
Kittle.
And DeJean, Jim, he is a former quarterback in high school from a small town, and an absolute astonishing athlete. He's going to test out of this world at the NFL Combine. Really a self-made player and kind of pull up your bootstraps kind of kid. I'm not really, especially in his fluidity, but as far as ball skills and instincts, he's always around the ball. He's always making plays. He's not afraid to get dirty and run support. And for the Steelers system, I think he'd be a great fit, especially with we have Minka over the top, who needs to be that fluid coming out of the gate. He can get press. He's not afraid. He's a pretty big guy. He's not afraid to get physical up at the line of scrimmage. But he has the athleticism there, too, that you look for in a first-round corner.
Awesome. Well, Roy, that's just tremendous stuff, and hopefully we can get you back on here again as we move through the off season here. But Jim, just to bring us home, it's the Super Bowl. Yay.
Why are you so snarky? Aren't you going to a party at least?
No, I don't. I'm rooting for the asteroid. I don't want either team to win.
Well, Super Bowl parties are fun because women like commercials and
Taylor Swift
music and halftime shows and Taylor Swift and so it's good. Those are good parties, and you can eat good food, right? Come on, man.
Yeah.
You can't do this. Don't. The Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl next year. Don't worry. They'll have their 7 soon enough.
From your mouth to God's ears, right?
Well, here's what I got. I love handicapping the Super Bowl. I love to take the common opponents. For whatever reason, I've had a lot of success over the years. But this matchup is dead even. They had 7 opponents, these two. Both of them went 4-3 against them. At the lines of scrimmage, the Chiefs are plus 0.4. They rushed for 4.5 and allow 4.1 against these 7 opponents. The San Francisco 49ers, the same thing. 0. It's a 0. It's an exact tie at the line, both lines of scrimmage. Defensive pass, the yards per completion, I always look at. The Chiefs 10.8, 49ers 10.6. And then finally, yards per point, the scoring efficiency, dead even. Dead even. I've never handicapped a game where it's so dead even. And so I got to lean to the Chiefs plus the points. I mean, you're getting only 2 points, but whenever it comes up like this, so dead even, I'll take the 2 points. Not that I'm in love with that pick, but I'm more in love with the fact how even this is. It should be a great game, Jeremy. Come on, man. I hope you watch it.
No, I mean, I'll watch it. I'll be pissed off the whole time because we should have beat the Bills. Made a run.
You'll wish it was Monday. Well, you'll be like the only guy in America that wishes it was Monday and you were at work.
Well, yeah. Well, I basically don't work anymore, so I won't wish I'm at work. But I gotta pull for the Chiefs because I don't want San Francisco joining that territory that we're kind of holding down there with a couple other teams. But as much as I don't want to, I'm a Chiefs fan, sadly.
Okay, so you'll root my bet home.
I will root your bet home.
A small one that it will be.
Yes. Yes. Yep. How about Roy? Who do you got?
I'm taking the Chiefs as well. I think that defense is slept on. Chris Jones and even Justin Reed out back and L'Jarius Sneed. I think they have the weapons to shut San Francisco down. I'm not a big Purdy believer, especially in the quarterback matchups. I'm always going to take Mahomes over Brock Purdy. So I could be eating my words, but we'll see.
Okay, here's another handicapping method. When you get the media together and all of them agree on one side, go with the other side.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Well, I do remember back to the home opener in Pittsburgh this year when we played the Niners, and I was at that game. And remember at the end of the game, the Niners fans just dominated Acrisure Stadium, and they were chanting, "Let's go Niners!" I was pretty pissed off about that. So yeah, I'm doubling down.
You've been pissed off ever since.
I have been. So Purdy, I hope you get sacked 8 times, and Isaiah Pacheco runs all over you. So that's it. And that's going to do it for episode number 96 of the Still City Insider podcast. Roy, where can we check out your work, Twitter handle, social media, so people can check out all the great stuff you're doing?
Sure. The Twitter handle is @PreacherBoyRoy. You can check out my website, prospectencyclopedia.com. It's where I have my draft content, the big boards, and all that and whatnot. I actually have an off-season database so you can keep track of all your free agency moves and coaching moves and all the stuff like that you want to. And as always, 24/7 sports, Steel City Insider. Jim lets me do the draft stuff, so that's always fun when I get to do that. And I have a mock draft coming out here in the next couple days.
Yeah,
so.
I saw that in my queue. I didn't open it yet. I didn't want to ruin our show. I didn't know if it'll be interesting to see now after I talk to you who you're going to have as the first round pick for the Steelers. Yeah, we'll have that tomorrow. A 7-rounder, I believe. You have that?
Yep, I have the full 7 rounds of them.
That's the kind of mock that I like. I really don't care who the Falcons are picking. I mean,
awesome.
Yep, all Steelers 7 picks that they have.
There you go.
So.
There you go. Jim, anything that you want to?
Well, I'm just working on my 6th book, The History of the Steelers. I just wrote the Passing of the Chief, so I'm up to 1989. Wow. And I got till March 15th.
Okay.
So, and it's going to be like a coffee table book. It's big pictures. This publishing house called me and asked me, and I pick the pictures out and then I write little vignettes.
Oh,
it
nice.
should be really, I like how the writing has gone because I'm stealing out of the best books. This is the Chuck Noll biography. Yep. I got the Chief biography. I got Cordell Stewart's biography. I read them all last year and I took notes of interesting stuff because I didn't know what I wanted to write next.
Yeah.
But then they called and said, "Hey, do you have any notes on the history of the Steelers?" I said, "In fact, I do."
Does Jim have notes?
I'm easing through. I'm giving credit to these great books, and I think everybody should know that the Chuck Noll biography is incredible. The Chief biography is incredible. I liked Ryan Shazier's book. I liked Jerome Bettis's book. I liked Bill Cowher's book. I liked Cordell Stewart's book. I read a lot, and so I'm ready for all this. Hopefully I can squeeze about 4 or 5 books out of all this stealing I'm doing.
Wow. Well,
hey, if it's anything like your last book that you put together, Jim, with the draft history, that was amazing work.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a must-have.
Yeah. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate
Definitely. All right, guys, that's going to do it. We'll see you back here next week for episode Kendrell Bell, number 97. And it's the start of season 4 because the Super Bowl's over. So season 4 starts next week. Be here for that. Everybody have a great week. Roy, Jim, I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, boys.
All right, take care.